Hey everybody, Jordan here. Looking forward to visiting with you today. Hope you're having a great day. It's about to get better because we're going to talk about helping people out of sexual brokenness. And I want to frame our conversation today with a recent quote that I read. It said this, that as sex goes, so goes marriage and the family. And as marriage and the family goes, so goes our civilization. So the importance of this topic could not be larger. The problem that we are addressing is the mass confusion that is related to the area of sexuality. For example, in a recent study, married Christian men, when they were polled about how they learned about sex, they said, the majority of them, that they learned about sex by their peers. How informed were those potentially junior high students when they were sharing with their peers about sex? So here's what I want to do. As we disciple people in this area, I want to give you two assumptions with some practicals, and then I want to give one cultural phenomenon with some practicals. So let's jump in. Number one, I want you to assume that people, single or married, are sexually confused. That's the first assumption. And secondly, assume that they need a clear plan for their sexuality. So let me give you an example from this month. Guy came to me and he said, I don't know what my wife's deal is and why my porn viewing is such a problem or such a big deal. That clearly illustrates the sexual confusion of our culture. So we want to give a clear plan. We don't want people to have to go fishing around on the internet. Like Jesus said when he was feeding the 5,000, you give them something to eat. So here we go, a clear plan. Number one, assessment. In the beginning, when sin enters the world, one of the best questions that God asks is, where are you? Not a more grace-filled question than that. And it's an assessment question. And we can do the same. We can help people locate where they are related to sexual addiction. There are free assessments on the internet, and it's a great first starting point for folks. After that, if they discover they have a sexual addiction, you want to refer them to a trained counselor. And if not, you want to work with them. So the next thing is you want to stabilize them. You want them to stop whatever the sexual issue that they're having. You want to get them to stop. And part of the way you can address that is you want to get them to have a filter on any of their devices. Finally, you want to do some education. So with this particular guy, after I'd gone through those steps with him, he was alarmed to see the spectrum when he took the sexual addiction assessment of where his behavior could lead him because he didn't think it was that big of a deal. And then I like a book called Wired for Intimacy by Struthers. As he began to read through that book, again, he had begun to have his eyes open in this area. This particular fellow, not a believer, so it's actually a great opportunity to share the gospel with people that are not believers, but that are looking for real help in their sexual struggles. By the end of 3 weeks, he had a different perspective on his sexual brokenness and also had some hope for dealing with this area. So those are a couple of assumptions. The assumption of sexual confusion and the assumption that people need a clear plan. Next, we're going to talk about a cultural phenomenon called sexless marriages. Obviously, there are many forms of sexual brokenness. I'm going to be specific on this and then make some general suggestions on some practicals. The New York Times recently said that sexless marriage is the most Googled phrase about sex and marriage, beating out unhappy marriage and loveless marriage. Wow. I had a friend here in town recently read the book that I wrote on sex, and he would have classified himself in that category. It simply helped him say, where are you related to this topic? And here's the point. People want help in this area, but they don't know how to ask for it, and they are embarrassed to do so. My buddy that read the book, he just needed a jumping off point to bring it up. So I want to say, by exhortation, let our churches communicate about sex so that our people, that those that we're reaching out to in our cities, they can see the church as a valid place to go with their sexual struggles. Most people are asking their friends or they're getting on the internet to find help with their sexual struggles. And we have hope, we have answers for them even in this area. But we need a clear plan. So in this particular area, I have a resource that I'll share with you. It's called 4 Factors That Predict a Healthy Marriage. And one of those factors is that there would be a mutually agreeable amount of physical intimacy within marriage. So a sexless marriage is not categorized as such. Therefore, we see that there is a problem. So what to do related to this phenomenon or any other form of sexual brokenness? Number 1, in discipleship with a married person, ask them intrusive questions about their sexuality. Ask them, how is your sex life? Even asking about the frequency that they have sex with their spouse. Why? Because it's one of the best barometers of marital health, and it opens up great conversations. Some people are uncomfortable by that, but that's okay. Some people, their spouse gets mad about it. That's okay too, because of the great conversations that it opens up and the exposing of the heart. So after an intrusive question, number 2, we want to give our churches a high vision for healthy sexual relationships. So letter A, teach on it. We want to correct the misinformation. My challenge to all church staffs will be, how will you schedule in some type of equipping related to sexual brokenness, and how will you resource your church to make disciples in this area? It's letter A. Letter B, on giving a high vision to our churches, is we want to give people hope. Many people are sexually discouraged. This would be single and married alike. Let our churches lead the way in not only healing sexual brokenness, but also in giving great hope to the sexually discouraged. And then C, resource people with simple tools that they can use. I regularly get asked, do you have a resource on X, Y, or Z related to sexuality? And we want to be great resourcers in this area. And then finally, my challenge to your staff: what resources are you going to provide related to healing sexual brokenness and helping others to disciple people in their spheres? Are people on your staff all aware of what resources are available? And is everyone conversant with those resources to make them available to those in your churches? So a couple of assumptions, one phenomenon with some practicals. God bless you guys as you bring the light and life of Jesus to the darkness and the sexual confusion around you.